What's up, everybody? Today we're going to be recreating Peter McKinnon's website in WordPress. Now, if you don't know who he is, it's 2025. Like, come on, get with the times, eh? He's a photographer, cinematographer. Anyways, big fan. How big? Well, I got this when they first came out. Oh yeah. So let me show you what we're going to be recreating in this tutorial. Okay, so now this is the website that we're going to be recreating in WordPress. It's very minimalistic, but it works really, really well. So as we scroll down, you can see this is the type of effects that he went with on his website. And there's also this YouTube section that we are going to be recreating as well. Very easy to do as well. And then it ends off with this newsletter. Now we are going to be concentrating on the home page of this website. We're not going to recreate the entire thing because that's just going to take way too long. From a website side, it's very simplistic, but it works really well because he's a very good photographer. So everything you see over here, it works really well because of his photography. It really just elevates the whole style of this website. So you don't need to do anything really fancy. So before we actually build it, we are going to need the images and everything that he used for this site. There's going to be a link in the description of this video that's going to go to a reference page on my website. So if you click it, it'll be this page over here, and then this download images button will give you all the images. Just as a side note, please don't be using these images for anything else other than this tutorial. They are copyrighted stuff. I don't have any rights to it. You don't have any rights to it. This is strictly just his stuff, okay? So we're just using it for learning purposes, and that is it. So here in the back end of WordPress, we're first going to start off with actually building out the menu. So when we're actually building the page and header and everything, then we already have the menu that we can just display. So let's create the menu. We go into appearance and we say menus. Here I already have one over here already set up. I just copied his. They don't actually have any links, and that's just a custom link. So to create a new dummy menu, very easy to say create a new menu over here. You give it a menu name. So I'm going with just example menu here in this tutorial. Say create menu, and then we can make those custom links. So here under custom links, all we're going to do is just put a hash over there for the actual URL, and then we can actually build out all the different links for his website. So the first one that he had was actually shop. So as a custom link, I'm just going to say add to menu. Then the second one was about, so a hash again, I'm just going to say about and say add to menu. And then the last one was contact, just like that with the hash and say add to menu. Now, if you're going to do the sub menu like what he had on his, then we can do that as well. So I'm just going to put some of it. I'm not going to put the whole thing. So again, just going to put hash. Then I'm going to say the first one was all and say add. And then I'm just going to take this and move it into the shop. So now it's the sub menu. Then hash. Then I'll say print, add, same process, put it in under the shop. And then the last one was hash and LR presets. So I'm going to add that and put it in there as well. You did have others in there as well, like video lights, motion effects, all that sort of stuff. But here, 3 is good enough here for this example. So now that we've got this menu, I'm just going to click on save, and now we can build the page. So here in Elementor on a brand new page, this is where we're going to build out everything. I'm also going to put the header over here. This isn't where you normally put a header, but just for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to start off with our first container. So I'm going to click on Flexbox and say that one right there. Now this one, for the settings of this, we're going to change this to full width. Make sure it's 100%. The direction we want horizontal. I'm going to put space in between because what's going to happen is I'm going to put the logo on the left and the menu on the right. And then the align items, I'm just going to say center. Okay, so now that we have that, I'm going to go to advanced and I'm going to change the position of this to absolute. The whole reason for that is because this is going to be the menu and it's going to be above everything else. So we're just faking it really. So for the settings of that, we don't have to change too much, but this offset on Y, I'm going to start this off on a 20 here for now. We can adjust this later if we need to. And then the Z index, I'm just going to put this as 1. So it's actually on top of everything else. Okay, so now we've got that done, let's add everything to the menu. So here, I'm going to click on the plus sign. Now you can choose the image or you can choose the site logo. Either one is fine. Normally you should go for the site logo, but because we're just recreating a website and we're not actually going to publish it, I'm just going to use the image over here. So here's the image widget and I'm just going to put it into that container. Then the other thing we're going to need is the menu. So click the plus sign, look for the menu. Here's the WordPress menu and put it in. Okay, Now, this image, we're going to have to use his signature. Now, that is one of the images that I've given you. So just have a look for it. It's going to be this one right over here, the little signature over there, and we are going to insert it right here. Now, everything over here is fine, but under style, I'm going to say the height is going to be 60. Now, for the settings of the WordPress menu, if we just click on that, the menu, we're going to use that example menu that we had just created. The alignment, we're going to make sure it's at the end. These other settings over here, we're not going to change because on his was just a normal pop-up. So if we look at his website, you can see it was just a normal pop-up, which is the same as his current one. So that we're just going to leave alone. So now we're going to go to style. Here for the typography, we're going to change this to Nunita Sans. It's this one right over here, Nunita Sans, and we're going to put that in. His text for this menu is actually a little bit on the small side. It was about a 13. Then the weight is going to be 400 and transform is uppercase. Then the text color here, I was going to change this to white, and I'm going to do it in hover as well. I'm going to put to white and active as white. There was no hover, there was no pointer color, so the pointer we can actually take out. So here back onto content, the pointer, we're just going to say none. Now, if I go back into style, the horizontal padding, I do want this at about a 10 pixel just to space it out the way that he had it on his. Then the drop down, if we come down here, the text color, we're going to change to black. The background color, we're going to change to white. And we must change the typography here as well. So it's the Nunita Sans. Now, in his website, it didn't use Nunita Sans. He did use an Arial. But because Arial is an Adobe font and not a Google font, we're using Nunita Sans, which is pretty close to it anyways. There are others, but that's the one I went with in this tutorial. So now we've got the font type. We're going to change the settings here for the size. This is a 13 as well. The weight is 400 and transform is uppercase. The vertical padding over here, we are going to set this to about a 5 pixel because then it represents the same as how he had designed his. Now under hover, if we go to the hover of the drop down, we are going to change this to a grayish, somewhere around that 4E style. The background, we're going to keep it as white. And now the active will do the same. So this text color, I'm just going to copy this over, go to active, and paste it here, and the background color, make sure it stays white. Then if we go down, toggle button, here the color can be white, and the background, we just make sure that it's transparent. So when it's in mobile view, it's still just a white icon. Okay, so now we're done with the whole header. Now we can rename this container over here just to call it header. So if you're looking back on this page and you know exactly what everything is. Now we've done with that, now we can go and create the next container. So click this plus sign, say Fleckbox, and we say that one. Now for the settings of this, the content width, I'm going to put to full width. The width obviously is going to be 100%, but the min height we're going to change to VH, and we're going to put this at about a 75. Now this is going to be pretty much the settings that we can just copy paste all the way down because this will speed up. The direction is fine, we can go vertical. Now if we go over to style, under background we're going to say classic, and we're going to select that first image that he had there, which was this one where he's sitting on this truck. So we'll just say select. The position of this, we're going to say center. Attachment is fixed. Repeat is no repeat, and display size is cover. Now it is a bit on the bright side over here, so if we go into background overlay, we can go and select black over here. And then the opacity, we are going to drop to a 0.15. Okay, so now we're done with this container. So all the other containers that we're going to be putting in, we can just copy this one here because it'll be the same settings. So if we go to the right hand menu over here, then we're just going to say duplicate. And then the second one, we can just change the background picture. So under style, we're going to say image, and it's going to be this black design of his logo, and we'll just say insert. Then for the actual color over here, we're just going to set this to a black. Now, if we go down, we can keep the center fixed and all that, but the display size, we are going to say custom, and we're going to make sure that it's at 100%. Okay, so now we're done with that. Now we're going to add in a heading and a button. So we're going to click on this plus sign, we're going to get the heading, we're going to put that in, and we're going to go and get a button here as well. So we're going to put this in. This is on the top left. What we have to have is this in the center. So if we click on this main container, here we can go down to layout, and we can just say align items in the middle. So it's justify center and align items center. Now if we click on the heading, The title here was Pete's Pirate Life. And under the style, the text color, I'm just going to change this first. I'm going to say this is white. The typography again was that Nunito Sans. The pixel size was 55. The weight was 800. And the letter spacing here was 3.2. So it gives that whole nice effect that he's doing there. Now, before we carry on, if we go into typography again and we click on this icon over here next to size, we're going to go over to mobile and we're going to change this to 24 so that it looks good on mobile there as well. And everything else can stay exactly the same. So now if we go back into desktop, we are going to do the button. So if we click on this button, the text over here was limited edition drops. The link obviously went to that page that's dedicated to that. But again, we're just recreating the design that he had. The typography again was that Nunito Sans. That's the only typography that he pretty much used. The sizing was about 16. The weight was 700. Transform was uppercase. And everything else is fine there for the font. Now, for the background color of this, he did go with a yellow. It is this one right over here, this FFCC00. The text color itself, it was black. Then in hover, the text stayed black. The color, I'm just going to paste that yellow and then just make it a little bit darker. So as you hover, you can see it does that sort of thing. Doesn't have to be exact really, but it was pretty close to that. Now, if we scroll down, it didn't have a border, but the padding over here was 25 all around. So it gave a nice big effect there. And that is it that we have to worry about for this section. Now, the next one we're going to rebuild is this one right over here. So here, this container, I'm going to duplicate it again because it's got most of the settings that we're going to be recreating. So for the settings of this, everything pretty much stays the same except for the line items. It's going to be at the start over here. Then under style, I'm going to change to this one where he did the Red Bull photograph. Then I'm going to say select that. And then the last thing I'm going to change over here is then display size from custom back into cover there. And it can stay just like that. Okay, so for the settings of the heading, this one was limited edition prints. The typography is changed a little bit here. Everything stayed the same, but the weight was 200. So it's got that sort of look going on for it. And then the letter spacing was a 0.7. And then everything else about it just pretty much stayed the same. So now we're going to change this button design because on his it had that sort of effect. So it was a little bit different there. So for the text over here, it just said shop prints. Then it obviously went to that page. Then under style, this yellow that we had created from the top over here, I'm just going to click on that. I'm going to say copy. And then I'm going to make this transparent. And then under text color, I'm going to put it there. In the hover, I'm going to do the same thing. Under color, I'm going to copy it, make it transparent, and put it into the text. So now it does that. Now the final things that we have to do to this button, if you look over here, it had a little bit of an underline and it had this arrow. So to do that, very simple. If we go back into the typography of this button, if we go under decorations, we're just going to say underline. So it gives that effect. And then to do this arrow over here, we go over to content. Then we're going to click into the icon library and it's going to type out arrow. And what we're looking for is this long arrow right over here. So I'm going to click on that. Now you can see the arrows there. So, but we need to put it at the end. So here I was going to put it at the end like that. And that is how it looked like on the actual website. Now it gets a lot quicker. So this next section over here, it's the same settings as the first one, except we're just going to have to change the background image. So now if we go into home, we go into this container, we're going to say duplicate. Now under the style of this, we are going to change it to that car image and we're going to say select. Then we all have to do is change the wording here. This limited edition that's over here, we are going to change this to Lightroom presets. So here is the shop prints. We're going to change this to shop presets. So just like that, shop presets. And obviously this is going to go to the presets page. Next section, same thing. We're just going to go and duplicate this container. Settings of the container is under style. We change the image. It's going to be this one with the bicycle and the car. Say select. Then the wording for the heading, it's just motion graphics. Then for the button, we are just going to change the text here to shop MGFX packs. So it's the shop motion graphics packs. And obviously that goes to that page. So this is actually a very easy build to do. So now we've done with this section, we're just going to say duplicate the container again. Now this one changes a little bit because this one links to his YouTube channel. So this motion graphics here, we're going to change this to YouTube. And for the text of the button, it was see more vids. Now for the settings of the actual container, what we're going to do is go to style, and we are going to change this to video. And in the reference page, there's going to be a link to a YouTube video on his channel. So you just copy that YouTube link and you paste it right here. Then the settings for this is play on mobile. So just to make sure that it does. Then all that's left to do is the last container with the newsletter. Okay, so this last container is, we're just going to click on the flex box and say container. We can just build this out raw. So then for the settings of this container, the width I'm going to keep at pixels, but I'm going to say it's about 1500. The min height, change to VH and say 75. The justify content is going to be center and align item center. Then for the style, I'm going to go into classic and I'm going to choose a slightly off-white color. So F6, F6, F6. And that will recreate that sort of look over there. What we need to put into that container is going to be this heading, a text widget, a form, another heading, and then the social icons underneath here. So in the editor, I am going to click the plus sign. I'm going to go heading. Then I'm just going to duplicate it because I need it too. Then plus sign again. Text editor, put it in between. And then plus sign again. And we're going to go for the social icons. And we're going to put that at the bottom. Okay, first heading. The text over here was the actual newsletter because there's the newsletter there. The settings of this, the align was center. Typography is that Nunita Sans again. The size was 28. The weight was 400 and everything else was fine there. And yes, this doesn't have to change in mobile. It's actually quite fine in mobile. So if I go look, you can see that it fits quite nicely. So the last thing we have to do is the text color. Going to change this to black. For the text editor over here, the actual text was getting notified when new projects drop. And there's not much that we have to do over here to this. So if we go to style, the first thing I'm going to do is just change the color to black, put it alignment to center. The typography was that Nunito again, and it was at 14. The weight was 200, and that was all that we had to put there. The other heading here was that follow. So if we go into settings here, I'm going to change the title there to follow. Then the style settings for this, the text color was black. The typography was that Nunito again. In his case, it was that Arial. Then the sizing was 50. In the sizing here, if we switch over to desktop, the size here was 25. So now if we switch back into desktop, all we have to do over here is change the weight to 300. And that is exactly how that looked over there. Now, I do know that we have this form over here. We are going to get to it. We're just going to do it last. Now, the next thing we are going to change is the social buttons. The first one that he had over here was at YouTube. So we're going to put that on the top. These other two over here, we're going to keep. We are going to add Instagram. So we click the add item and the icon. We're going to change this to Instagram right over there. Say insert. And we can drag this above everything else except for YouTube. So it's YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and then we're going to add another one. Now this other item, here we're going to say upload SVG. If you saw in all that media, it's this bigger SVG over here. So we're going to say insert, and that was all the icons that he had there. So now the shape over here, we're going to say that this is a circle, and we are going to change the style to go and match this look over here. So under style, we change the color from official to custom. The primary color, we're going to make this transparent. And the second color, we are going to put this as black. The sizing of this was 20 pixels. The padding we're going to keep to EM. And we're going to say that this is a 0.2. Spacing 5 is fine. And everything else is fine. So now we have the icons looking. And now the last thing that we have to go and recreate is the newsletter. So to do that, we click this plus sign, we say forms, just this one over here, and we are going to put it in between the text and the heading. So the only thing that we needed over here is the email. So we can take out the name and the message. So it's just these two that we're going to need to do. The labels we're going to hide. Okay, so now that we just have the email, we are going to open this up. Now the column width, here we're going to change this to about a 60%. And then the placeholder that he had was email address instead of just email. Everything else is fine. So now we are going to go into buttons. So here the column width was about a 40% and the submit actual text was subscribe. Okay, and that's all that we have to do over here. This does look a little bit funny, but we are going to change this up in one of the final settings over here because you can see that it's a lot bigger. But that we don't have to worry about right now. What we're going to be doing is actually going into the style. Then if we go into field, we decided to change the typography here from that Roboto, and we're going to put it back into that Nunito Sans. We're going to put this at, say, like a 14 pixel. And we can say transform to uppercase. Now the border color over here was just a very slight one. So here under the border color, it was just a D, right? So it's just the hashtag DDDDDD. And so it just did a little bit of a highlight to the actual box over there. So it complemented the background color. Then the border radius, we're just going to make sure that this is 0, and we can move on to the buttons. So the things we have to change is the border type. We're going to change this to solid. The border width, we're going to say that this is 2 pixels all around. The background color, we're going to make this transparent. And then the text color, we're going to say that this is black. So the previous button we can change as well. So we just make sure that it's transparent, and then the text color is black. Then under hover, the background, it changes into black. The text stays white, and the border color, it just goes black. So it does that. So now if we scroll down, the border radius, here we're going to set it to 0. And then the text padding is 17 and 25. So this first one is 17, 25, 17, and 25. Okay, we are almost there. The last thing we have to do to this button in the style section is we just go up to typography. We're going to click on this. Again, we're going to change this to that Nunito. We are going to say the weight is 300, and we're going to say that this is uppercase. So it does that sort of look. So you can see over here, that's what we're recreating. And then the last thing that we have to do for this button is if we go under advanced, here under width, we are going to say that this is custom, and we are going to put this at about a 25%. Now you can see all the other settings that we did are all coming together here. So that's 60, and that other one that was a little bit less than, then you can see that now we're creating this quite nicely. The very final thing that we have to do is you can see in this field, it doesn't actually line up with a button. Unfortunately, there isn't any setting that can just buff that up very easily in the form. So if we go into my reference page over here, and we go down to this code for the form, we're just going to say copy this, and we are going to go into advanced here, and we're going to put it into the custom CSS. So this custom CSS, we're just going to paste that, and you can see it just stretches out the field just a little bit. And guess what? We are done with the entire thing. This is the whole thing. So now we just click publish. So now if we go look at the front end, not only is it mobile responsive because we've done all that, but everything is working just like on his website. And that is recreating Peter McKinnon's website in WordPress. I hope you liked this video. If you did, smash that like button. And if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing as well. That stuff makes a big difference to a small channel like mine. If you have any suggestions or anything, then just put a comment down below. Let me see what I can do. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.